Hello my friends, Miss Jennifer here. Today we are going to make a furry friend, and it's pretty much the same way you would make our little felt softies. It's just a little trickier because they're furry and they're going to shed. So first we need our little furry shapes, and we've got some fur scraps. We have some fluff. If you don't have any at home, you can get some at the library. Needle and thread will come with your kit. There's a little needle and thread kit in there. You'll need to have some scissors, and you don't have to have it, but a pencil or something with a dull end is helpful. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our shapes. Now these are a little teddy bear shape. Now if you want to put on here, if you wanted to put on eyes or use thread or little buttons or whatever, you'd want to put that on first. Glue it onto your fur or sew it on. So let's pretend that we've done that. Now the next thing we're going to think about doing, they've got little ears, but their ears aren't very eary. So we're going to add some bigger fur ears. This is a little more for the bigger ones, but so I'm going to kind of cut my shapes out here. It's going to be like giant bunny ears or something. Yeah, well, every softie that I've ever made has turned into like a zombie, so I don't know what it is about how I'm making them, but I just kind of go with it. Okay, so we have our shape of whatever else we're going to put on. Might be ears or hair, whatever you're going to add. And I'm going to put it with the furry sides together, right sides together. Then I'm going to thread my needle. Okay, so I have my, well, let's call it an appendage. And I'm going to leave it open at the bottom, but I'm going to sew around the edge. And usually with a felt softies, it doesn't really matter what stitch you use, but with these furry ones, I'm going to use a back stitch that makes sure that there are no holes in your stitching, because any holes, the fur is going to seep through. It's like and the stuffing too. So I'm going to sew around the edge here. Oh, the fur is flying. And now this is a little big. I mean, it's like one ear. I think it's going to be more like a hat or something maybe. All right, so finish sewing. So if you have two ears, I'm going to sew around the tops of both of them, and the running stitch is really good. So go ahead and do that. So here's our ear, or hat or whatever, second head, all sewn together, and you can see it's got a continuous sewn around the edge. So now I'm going to turn it inside or right side out. And this is where the pencil comes in handy. Poke, poke, poke. Okay. It's like a little Sherpa hat or something. Okay, so now we're going to sew this one together, right sides together, but we don't want to just put the hat on them like this, because then it'll disappear when we turn them inside out. So we're going to put the hat inside. This is kind of a tricky part. And then both sides against it, so it's like a sandwich. Now, and this, honestly, if you're doing these little ones, I probably wouldn't bother with ears or a hat or anything like that. I just do that with the bigger ones. But I just want to show you how it works. So now, when we do our running stitch across the top, it's got to catch everything. It's got to catch it's got to go through all four layers, the two layers of the white fur and the two layers of the hat. And don't worry if it looks kind of messy, it's not going to show when we turn it right side out again. So I'm going to go my back stitch going around the edge here. And if you don't know how to do a back stitch and you want to learn that or other stitches, you can look online. Like you can look at Creative Bug, or just YouTube is good. You can also look at the library. 646 is where our sewing books are, and some that I really like for basic sewing on the shelf would be books by Jane Bull. She has several Stitch by Stitch and Crafty Creatures, and they teach you a whole bunch of basic techniques for making little stuffed animals and all sorts of different creations. If you want to use a sewing machine, which is kind of tricky for something this small, hand sewing is better, but with something bigger, the sewing school books are really good for that. And I have those included in our maker kits. And you can look at all our maker kits on Pinterest. And the sewing maker kits, they include the sewing school book. There's a whole series of them. There's one that's basic sewing, and then the next one is basic sewing machine skills, and then there's one for doing clothes. It has basic stuff like shirts and adding a few things to your clothes to make them fancier, and then there's a quilting one. And each one of those is its own maker kit. And then as well as the book and sewing material tools you need, like scissors and stuff. Woe betide you if you use my fabric scissors on anything but fabric, by the way. There's also consumables, so they come with thread and things you can use for accessories, and see, even sometimes Miss Jennifer's thread knots, and fabric. So we have some very nice people have donated lots of fabric to us over the years for us to use, so you can make your own creations. And you get to keep the stuff you make. You just bring back the tools, like the scissors, which you have not used in anything but fabric. And so forth. Okay, I think we got, now we're going to check this one. Make sure you, ta-da! There he has. Okay, so now he's got his furry hat on, and we're going to flip him back inside out, and we're going to sew around the whole shape, but we're going to leave space when we get down, because we're going to stuff him. So we're going to sew down one whole side, okay? Okay, so now I've sewn nearly all the way around him. I've left his leg and stuff open here. Now hopefully, it's a little tricky with these small ones. We're going to try to turn him right side out. And I was not quite as diligent about my back stitch as I might have been, so that's why it's pulling apart a little bit. Okay, now you can kind of see my stitches on here. When you do it, you might want to use a thread that doesn't show, like if you've got a white, use a white one, just because that'll be easier, but I wanted you to be able to see what I was doing. Okay, so I finally got him turned inside out, and his hat poofed up there. And this would be a good time to go around and make sure you've totally sewn it all. I sewed mine like some of the, it looks funny and tight like this because I got some of the fur caught in the threads, but you can fiddle with it a lot. So then I'm going to put some stuffing in him. Oof. And this is where, again, you can use your pencil to stuff out the edges of the head and the arms. And then you can use a couple different things when he's done to close them up. With how fluffy this is, you'll probably be fine using a whip stitch if you're using a thread that's the same color. But there are several different ones you can do that are more or less invisible. And you'll actually probably find it a little easier to sew it from the outside because you'll be able to not catch all the chunks of fur in it. So then just sew them up the rest of the way, and here's your furry fluffy friend with a strange growth on their head. And there's lots of different ways you could do this in different stitches. Just be patient and go slowly, and you might have to cut some stitches out and try again, but you'll get there eventually. Have fun!